There are certain things Sigma males do that seem completely normal to them, but quietly confuse everyone else. Small habits, subtle behaviors, moments that don't stand out at all from the inside, yet somehow change the entire mood of a room. Because these men don't move through life the way most people do, their actions are often misunderstood. They aren't trying to stand out. They aren't making a statement. Most of the time, they don't even notice anything unusual about what they're doing. But to others watching, it feels different, off, even intimidating. While most people constantly adjust themselves to fit in, Sigma males don't try to manage impressions. Their responses come naturally, without the usual self-monitoring. That's why people often struggle to explain their reactions to them. Something feels odd, but no one can quite put their finger on why. What makes this even stranger is that these behaviors aren't learned or copied. They develop quietly over time, shaped by how Sigma males think, observe, and process the world. To them, it's just normal behavior. To everyone else, it's unexpected. Whether you're a Sigma who's never noticed these patterns in yourself, or someone who's always wondered why Sigma males seem so hard to read, these habits reveal a lot more than they appear to on the surface. Here are 9 weird things Sigma males do without realizing it. Number 1. Their awkward silence makes people say more than they intended. Most people hate silence. When a conversation stops, they fill it. With small talk, with questions, with anything that keeps the interaction moving. Silence feels uncomfortable, like something's wrong, like the connection is breaking. So they rush to fix it before it gets too weird. But if you're a Sigma, you don't do that. Someone says something, and you just think about it. The silence stretches, 1 second, 3 seconds, and you're fine. You're just processing what was said before responding. But the other person isn't fine. The silence is screaming at them. And in that screaming silence, they start talking again, filling the space. And often, they say more than they meant to. This happens in negotiations. Someone makes you an offer. Instead of immediately countering or accepting, you just sit there, looking at them, thinking, and they get nervous. Did they offer too little? Too much? Are you offended? They can't tell, so they start talking. They explain their reasoning. They justify the number. They might even improve the offer without you saying a word, just because the silence made them uncomfortable enough to fill it. Or in personal conversations, someone tells you something. You don't immediately react or ask follow-up questions. You just absorb it. And in that pause, they keep going. They add details they weren't planning to share. They reveal more than they intended. Because humans are wired to interpret silence as disapproval or disinterest. So they try to fix it by giving you more explanation, more context, more truth. You're not doing this strategically. You're just taking time to think. But the effect is the same. Your comfort with silence becomes a vacuum that pulls information out of other people. And they don't even realize it's happening until later when they think back and wonder why they told you so much. Number 2. They don't try to impress you, which makes you want to impress them. Watch most people in social situations. They're performing, telling stories that make them look good, dropping credentials, mentioning important people they know, laughing a little too loud at jokes, dressing to be noticed. The entire interaction is a subtle competition for status and attention. Everyone's trying to impress everyone else. Then there's the Sigma male. You show up in normal clothes. You don't tell stories about your accomplishments. You don't name drop. You don't try to prove anything. You're just there, existing, asking questions when you're curious, listening more than talking. And somehow, that makes people want to impress you more than anyone else in the room. Because when someone's trying to impress you, it signals that your approval matters to them. They're competing. But when you're not trying at all, it signals something different. Either you're so secure you don't need to compete, or you're operating on a level where their approval doesn't matter. Either way, that creates intrigue, and people respond to intrigue by trying to earn your interest. It's reverse psychology without the psychology. Being a Sigma means you're not playing hard to get. You're genuinely just existing without the performance layer. But to people who are used to everyone performing, your lack of performance reads as confidence, as someone who has nothing to prove. And ironically, that makes them want to prove something to you. They start trying to get your approval, your attention, your validation. Not because you asked for it, because you didn't. Think about dating. Most people trying to attract someone put on their best version. They showcase their strengths. They hide their flaws. They manage the image they're projecting. You just show up as yourself. And somehow that authenticity is more attractive than all the performance. Because it's rare. Because it suggests you're not desperate for approval. And lack of desperation is magnetic in a world where everyone's trying too hard. Number 3. They don't call out lies, letting contradictions pile up. Someone tells you a story. You notice it doesn't add up. The timeline's wrong. The details contradict something they said earlier. The whole thing feels off. Most people would call it out. They'd ask clarifying questions, point out the inconsistency, try to get to the truth right there in the moment. If you're a Sigma, you don't do that. You just file it away. You note the contradiction. You remember it. But you don't say anything. You let them keep talking. Let them add more to the story. And often, they contradict themselves again and again. And you just collect all of it, quietly, without judgment, without confrontation. This serves two purposes. First, it gives you more information. When you call someone out immediately, they get defensive. They start covering. They get careful with their words. But when you let them keep going, thinking you believe them, they relax. They get sloppy. And sloppiness reveals truth eventually. The contradictions pile up until the whole structure collapses on its own. Second, it protects you. When you don't call out lies in the moment, people think you didn't notice. They think they fooled you. And that makes them underestimate you. They see you as easy to manipulate, as someone who doesn't pay attention. And that perception is useful, because while they think you're oblivious, you're actually building a complete picture of who they are based on all the things they thought you missed. You're not trying to trap anyone. You're just not wasting energy on confrontations that won't change anything. Sigmas know that if someone's lying, correcting them doesn't make them honest. It just makes them better at lying to you. But letting them lie freely shows you who they are. And that information is more valuable than the temporary satisfaction of catching them in the moment. Number 4. They stay emotionally flat, leaving nothing to push against. Most people show their feelings on their face. Happy news brings a smile. Bad news shows worry. Anger comes with obvious signs. It's like watching a movie where you always know what's happening next. But Sigma males don't work that way. Their faces stay calm no matter what's going on. They could be excited, angry, or completely neutral, and you'd never know the difference. It's not that they don't feel things. They feel plenty. They just don't put it on display for everyone to see. This drives people crazy because humans are used to reading emotions. We look at faces to figure out how someone feels. When that information isn't there, it creates this weird empty space, like trying to push a door that isn't actually there. Someone might try to get a reaction out of them. Maybe throw an insult or make a dramatic statement. They're waiting for anger, for defense, for something. But the Sigma just looks at them with the same calm expression. No emotion to grab onto. No reaction to work with. It's not a strategy. Sigma males aren't trying to mess with anyone's head. This is just how they process things. They feel the emotion internally, think it through, and then decide how to respond. By the time their response comes out, It's measured and controlled. But to everyone else, it feels like talking to a wall. They can't tell if their words landed or bounced off. There's no feedback to work with. No emotional reaction to push against. Just calm observation and controlled responses. This flatness actually makes others more emotional. When you can't get a reaction from someone, you often try harder. You say more. You reveal more than you planned. All while the Sigma just watches, taking it all in without giving anything back. Number 5. Their logic lands cold in arguments, making others feel unheard. Someone's upset. They're explaining why they're hurt or frustrated or angry, and they're looking for emotional validation. They want you to say you understand, that their feelings make sense, that you see where they're coming from. But that's not what Sigmas do. You listen to their explanation, and then you respond to the logic. You point out where their reasoning doesn't hold up. You offer solutions to the problem they're describing. You explain why the thing they're upset about isn't actually as big an issue as they think. And all of that is accurate. Your logic is sound. Your points are valid. But your response makes them more upset than they were before. Because they didn't come to you for logic. They came for emotional acknowledgement. And you gave them a debate. To you, fixing the problem is how you show you care. You're taking their issue seriously enough to actually solve it. But to them, you just dismissed their feelings. You made it about facts and reason when they needed it to be about empathy and understanding. This happens constantly in relationships. Your partner says they're upset about something. You immediately start problem solving. Here's what you can do differently. Here's why this happened. Here's how to prevent it next time. And they get more frustrated. Because the problem wasn't the problem. The feeling was the problem. And you just tried to logic away a feeling. Being a Sigma means you're not trying to be cold. You're trying to be helpful. But your version of helpful is analytical. You see inefficiency or irrationality, and you want to optimize it. You think offering a solution is supportive. But sometimes support means just sitting with someone in their emotion without trying to fix it. And that doesn't come naturally to you. Your brain wants to solve. And sometimes solving makes things worse. Number 6. They accidentally intimidate people by staring longer than expected. Most people break eye contact regularly. They look away, glance around, check their phone. It's a rhythm. Look away, look back. It signals comfort. It signals you're relaxed, that you're not challenging anyone. But Sigma males don't do that rhythm. When you're listening to someone, you just look at them. Your eyes stay on them. You're focused, absorbing what they're saying, processing their words, and you don't realize your stare is unbroken. You're not trying to intimidate. You're not trying to dominate. You're just paying attention. But to the person talking, your unbroken eye contact feels intense. Because sustained eye contact is a dominant signal in primates. Predators stare at prey. Challengers stare at rivals. So when you lock eyes with someone and don't look away, their subconscious reads threat, even though consciously they know you're just listening. The wiring is deeper than logic. Their nervous system says this person is challenging me or hunting me, and that makes them uncomfortable. They start fidgeting, breaking eye contact themselves more often, talking faster to end the interaction, or they might challenge you back, thinking you're trying to assert dominance, when really you just forgot to look away. You were in your head processing information, and your eyes stayed fixed on the source of that information. No strategy, no intention, just focus. This also happens when you're thinking. Someone asks you a question. You look at them while you think about the answer, and you're not seeing them. You're looking through them. Your eyes are pointed at their face, but your mind is elsewhere. And that 1,000-yard stare makes people deeply uncomfortable, because they can tell you're not present. They're looking at you looking at them, but nobody's home. And that uncanny valley feeling makes them want to get away from you. Number 7. They don't sugarcoat feedback, accidentally crushing fragile egos. Someone asks for your opinion on their work, their idea, their plan, and they're expecting encouragement. Maybe some gentle criticism wrapped in compliments. The feedback sandwich. Good thing, constructive thing, good thing. That's the social script. That's how you're supposed to deliver information to people. You don't do that. They ask what you think, and you tell them. Directly, here's what works, here's what doesn't, here's why. No padding, no emotional cushioning, just the actual assessment. And to you, that's respectful. You're taking them seriously enough to give them real feedback instead of useless pleasantries. But they don't take it that way. They hear your unfiltered assessment, and they feel attacked. Because they weren't actually asking for an objective evaluation. They were asking for validation with some helpful notes attached. They wanted you to tell them they're on the right track with a few minor adjustments. Instead, you told them their foundation is flawed and they need to rebuild from scratch. You're not trying to crush anyone. You're trying to help them improve. You see problems, and you point them out because leaving problems hidden doesn't serve anyone. But your directness hits harder than you realize. Because most people's egos are fragile. Their sense of competence is tied to their work. So when you criticize the work, they feel like you're criticizing them. Even though to you, those things are completely separate. This is why people stop asking for your feedback. Not because your feedback is wrong. Because it's too accurate. It exposes weaknesses they'd rather not face. It requires them to admit they're not as good as they thought. And that admission is painful. So they avoid it by avoiding you. They go to people who will tell them what they want to hear instead of what they need to hear. And you end up isolated, wondering why nobody values honesty anymore. Number 8. They refuse help even when they're clearly struggling. You're working on something difficult. Maybe it's physical, maybe it's mental, maybe it's technical, and you're hitting a wall. You're stuck, frustrated, making slow progress. And someone notices. They offer to help, to show you their way, to take some of the load off your shoulders. And instead of accepting, you decline. No thanks, I got it. Even when you clearly don't have it yet. This confuses people because most humans are wired to accept help. It's efficient. It builds social bonds. It signals trust. Refusing help when you need it seems irrational, stubborn. Like you're making things harder for yourself out of pride. And maybe there is some pride in it. But it's not about ego in the way people think. Sometimes it's simpler than that. Some people, even when they mean well, actually slow you down. They explain things you already understand. They pull you into their way of doing it. And you can't just tell them that without sounding rude, because they genuinely want to help. You can't cut them off without creating tension. So the easiest option becomes refusing help altogether, even if you don't have a perfect reason for it. But there's something deeper going on too. It's about testing yourself. There's a specific feeling you're chasing, and it only comes when you've solved something completely on your own from zero. No instructions, no guidance, no shortcuts, just you and the problem. And when you finally break through, after struggling for hours or days, there's a satisfaction that's hard to explain to people who don't feel it. It's not about proving you're better than anyone. It's about proving to yourself that you're capable. Because you don't fully trust your own abilities until you've tested them. Someone can tell you you're smart, skilled, competent, but those are just words. You need evidence. And the only evidence you accept is succeeding at something hard without help. Every time you solve something from scratch, you build real confidence, not the performative kind. The kind that comes from knowing you can handle things because you already have. People interpret this as you being difficult, or distant, or rejecting connection, because helping is how most people bond. When you refuse help, it can feel like you're rejecting them. But you're not. You're protecting that need to test yourself, to figure it out your own way, to know exactly what you're capable of. And to you, that's more valuable than making the process easier or sparing a moment of awkwardness. Number 9. They avoid seats that make them visible. You walk into a room, a meeting, a restaurant, a classroom, and you scan for where to sit. Most people head toward the middle, or the front if they want attention. They take seats that are visible, that put them in the flow of the room, that make them part of the main action. If you're a Sigma, you do the opposite. You head for the back corner, the side seat, the spot that's out of the main sightline, where you can see everyone, but not everyone is looking at you, where you're present but not prominent, and you take that seat without even thinking about it. It just feels right. This isn't about shyness. You're not hiding. You're positioning. That back corner gives you the best vantage point. You can see who comes and goes. You can observe the room dynamics. You can watch interactions without being in them. And if you need to leave early, you can do it without disrupting everyone. It's tactical, but it looks like avoidance. People notice patterns. You always sit in the back, always on the edge, never in the center. And they make assumptions. Maybe you're insecure. Maybe you don't want to be there. Maybe you think you're too good to sit with everyone else. None of those are true. You just prefer the perimeter. Because the perimeter gives you control. You can engage when you want. Disengage when you want. You're not trapped in the middle where leaving is disruptive and staying requires constant participation. This shows up in group photos too. You're always on the end, never in the center. Not because you don't belong, because the center is for people who need to be seen. You don't need to be seen. You're fine being documented on the edge. Still in the photo, still part of the group. Just not competing for the spotlight. And that consistent edge position makes people think you're not really part of things, when really you're just part of things on your terms. If you stuck around to the end, a few of these probably felt uncomfortably familiar. Which one of these do you do the most? Drop a comment. If this made something click for you, let me know with a like. It tells me this is the kind of content worth making. And if you want more content breaking down the Sigma personality, subscribe and join the biggest Sigma community on YouTube. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.